Good evening, everyone. I see we're now streaming live on YouTube, so I'll welcome everyone to our Prescott Town Council meeting for Monday, July 19th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order and move right on to item 2 on the agenda. That's tonight's approval of the agenda. Recommendation reads that the agenda for the council meeting of July 19, 2021 be approved as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, second by Councilor Burton. Any comments, questions on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Any member of council have a declaration this evening? Seeing none, 4 presentations, nothing tonight. Same with delegations under 5. So 6 minutes of our previous council meetings, and we do have, of course, the one item from our last council meeting, our last meeting in June. So under 6.1, that's the minutes from June 21st, 2021. Recommendation reads that the council minutes dated June 21st, 2021 be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Young, seconded by Councilor Ostrander. Any comments on that set of minutes from June 21st? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. 7, communications and petitions. Nothing formally on the agenda there tonight. 8, under consent reports, we do have the recommendation to include the information package items. Recommendation reads that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Burton, seconded by Councilor Shankar. Any comments or questions there? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. So right on to 9, we're into committee reports. And under committee reports under 9.1, we have a planning advisory committee report 13-2021. That's on a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for Blacks Creek Innovations from Development Drive. Recommendation reads that council adopt a zoning bylaw amendment under section 34 of the Planning Act to change the subject lands discussed from a highway commercial C2 zoning to a general industrial zone M1. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Jansman, seconded by Councilor Shankar. So Mr. Merriman, I believe that's yours tonight. And we did discuss this at Planning Advisory Committee on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, this here is simply a continuation of a condition of the sale that went through to Blacks Creek. The request to change it from commercial C2 to general industrial zone M1. Both of those zones are allowed in the 401 highway corridor, and it was simply taken. It was actually taken by the town to the PAC Planning Committee to have the zoning changed. So basically, there's no civic address addressed yet, but it is the land that's east of the archaeological lands and west of the hydro easement on the south side of Development Drive, and it's about 1.825 hectares.
Thanks very much, Sean. If I could ask our Economic Development Officer, Dana, can you just let people know at home who Blacks Creek is, what they're doing, and basically help us welcome them here to Prescott? We've discussed them obviously before, but just to keep this in the forefront, so let people know the new business coming to town.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you to council. So we're very excited about this new development. The development, of course, business is Blacks Creek Operations. So they are a wood processing equipment manufacturer. They essentially specialize in processing firewood, tree clearing, everything from chipping to shearing of limbs to a lot of resale operations. We're very excited to have them here, and they are looking at utilizing a number of local contractors, not only for the construction of their building, but also for the ongoing supports for their business. And they'll also be hiring locally. They're looking at 5 to 10 employees initially with anticipated growth. They are actually based in Kempville, and they've quickly outgrown their existing location. And the Prescott, it particularly was very attractive to them, the proximity of the property to the 401, the connections that can provide them to many other markets and distribution outlets was extremely appealing, and I think it's going to be a good fit with the other local companies in the area. So we're very excited to welcome them. The owner is Sheldon Gilmer, And we'll be, of course, having some groundbreaking celebrations, hopefully in the very near future.
And just to be clear for everyone, they actually manufacture the hardware that does this work, not like the processing itself. So they're making the actual equipment back there, or
That's correct.
distributing it back there, I should say.
And their business actually was developed sadly out of the 1998 ice storm. That was the original impetus for their business, where they realized there was a significant opportunity, of course, that arose with all of the dead tree stock that had to be cleared as part of the cleanup efforts from that. And there was a real lack in that wood processing equipment. So that really was what launched their business, and they've grown continually and continue to grow, and we look forward to welcoming them.
Thanks so much, Dana. Open it up for comments, questions from council. Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Through you, Dana, when is the expected time? Have they shared their action plan with us?
So they've been moving very quickly through the development process. We've got their rezoning application, which will precede their actual site plan application, which we expect to follow very shortly if this all goes through tonight. And I would anticipate, they're looking to break ground this year. So I would anticipate construction hopefully to be occurring this fall.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Dana. Any further comments from members of council? Another good news story, and we have more on the way, including some something connected to that, actually, the development back there a little later this evening with the traffic study. So with that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 10, mayor's portion this evening. Not too much to report. The only thing I'll comment on is you all may have seen that with the announcement today with some of the loosening of the border restrictions federally. We did have a meeting with our border mayors group this morning with Minister Bill Blair that reviewed all the changes that were coming down that were formally announced later this afternoon. Long and the short of it is Americans will be allowed into Canada for non-essential purposes as of 12:01 a.m. on August 9th. With a test, a negative test within 72 hours of landing in Canada, arriving in Canada, and also proof of 2 vaccinations. Unfortunately, the Americans have not reciprocated on that. Minister Blair was actually fairly clear this morning that the Americans were going to roll over the restrictions again till August 21st for Canadians, but that they were still considering possible changes and they may be able to loosen things up ahead of time. But as of this morning and again this afternoon, I do see the Canadian side did not comment on it, but the Americans did, and said, I think Jen Psaki's note from the White House was that don't expect this to be reciprocal. So it doesn't seem that it is right now, which is disappointing because there should be a good two-way flow across the border. But we'll, hopefully it's good news on the one side of things with Americans being allowed in, although I do think the requirements for testing, in addition to the vaccinations, not to give an opinion there one way or the other, although I do approve of the vaccine passports, I don't think that's going to allow for a lot of traffic into Canada, especially for day trip people. And that's obviously a big part of our local economy. People coming over for quick visits. Our Chinese restaurants are famous for that, and so on here in town. So not seeing a whole lot of movement there, but it's starting to creep forward. And hopefully this is just the first of a number of good news announcements over the next month or so. But quite disappointed over the fact that the American side is still inaccessible to Canadian non-essential travel for the land border. So that's, I think that's about all I'm going to comment on tonight. Everything else, I'll have some comments about the arena, of course, but that's a significant portion later in the evening. So I'll let that go for now, and I'll go right on to 11 on outside boards, committees, and commissions. And as always, start with Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Just wanted to thank the operations department. They are doing a fabulous job around town. I'm getting lots of positive feedback from our residents, how beautiful Riverwalk Park is, our downtown. It's just, they really stepped it up this year. So kudos to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. The BIA met on July 13th and again, quite an active agenda, and we got a sight of the new pole wraps that are going to come. You're going to see relatively in the near future, and that's very exciting. And yeah, a lot going on with this BIA and the new members, and yeah, it's a going concern. So I'm happy to be part of that group. And I, like Mayor Todd has mentioned, the planning committee met this past week too. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend that, but we saw what that was about. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jansman. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. And first of all, my apologies for tuning in a couple of minutes late. I was unavoidably detained. But as I tuned in, you were on the consent reports number 8, and you skipped to number 9. You missed 8.1 information package.
No, 8.1 is included under the consent agenda reports. So it was covered. Did you have something you did want to refer to there, Lee?
Yeah, if you don't mind, if I skip back here, I apologize again. On the health unit, this is actually a question that perhaps you can shed some light on. We have the minutes of the various health unit meetings that have taken place since our last meeting, and the meeting on Friday, July 9th. The second page of that, down near the bottom, there's a bullet point, and it says, concern was raised about the new Ontario Health East region that will include Toronto and all areas east of it. I can see where concern was raised about that, because why in hell would we want to get lumped in with Toronto with all the problems that Toronto has had with this COVID and lockdown? Can you make any comment on that about, I know they're trying to save money, but lumping us in with Toronto just doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, it's part of the changes with the lens, but I wouldn't want to comment on that off the cuff tonight. We can bring that back for further details. I do see the comment on there. I didn't attend that meeting, so I wasn't at that one. So that's something that I think would require a much deeper dive, because there are a lot of ins and outs with what are happening with the evolution of the health system here in Ontario, with how that's being worked out with the health units. And a lot of that was delayed, of course, with COVID.
Okay, well, thank you. And I didn't realize you weren't at the meeting, or I probably wouldn't have brought it up at this time, but I think it's something that us and the other municipalities in Eastern Ontario who have been relatively COVID-free in this pandemic should be very concerned of. And I think we should see what we can do about it at this time before it is finalized. So can we bring that back for some kind of future discussion? Can you raise it at the health unit and perhaps get a little better information on it, so that you can let us know what's going on maybe a little better in the next little while?
We have a board meeting coming up this week, so we can discuss it a little bit there. I'm not going to I don't want to comment on this the way this is phrased here, but I think there's some clarity that needs to be added to how this was phrased in the minutes. I didn't catch this before, actually, because majority of those Friday meetings, they've actually been, the assumption is, I got from the chair, from Mayor Malenka on Friday as well, they're going to wind them down shortly, simply because they're not serving the purpose as right now, because they were about vaccinations and immediate messaging, and we're kind of getting past that now, and you're seeing a little bit of lax in the attendance now for the summertime, simply because we are beyond some of the main purpose for those Friday meetings. But absolutely, I can get that on and get some added clarity on that.
Great,
Matt,
I appreciate
anything
that.
to add on that? Are you aware of anything specific with regards to what's happening with the lens and this development?
So I'm just recalling that particular meeting, and I think there was the difference between Ontario East and the health sector versus what they're doing with the health units, and the two aren't absolutely aligned. And so they're going to put the health unit discussion on hold, and we'll certainly circle back to it as COVID abates. But certainly, I think that was the basis of the conversation, and one is focused on primary, secondary, and tertiary care, and the other one is more on the public health. And it is quite possible there'll be two different systems for that.
That's sort of my assumption here, because from what I understand with the way the LHINs are being reorganized, it certainly doesn't include all of Toronto and Central Ontario. So, but I'd have to check for sure. I'll forward this on to Paula and just ask briefly if she can just give me the 2-bit explanation, and I can forward that on to you as well, and we can bring it back to council. I'm sure Paul will have some good clarity on this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Todd. I appreciate it. I know a couple of years ago we were concerned when we were going to get lumped in with Ottawa, because we didn't feel that Ottawa and Eastern Ontario, with the exception of Ottawa, was very compatible, and this just seems even worse, Toronto and Eastern Ontario. So I'll look forward to hearing what you have to say about that. The other thing, if I can digress for a minute, Mayor Todd, was a letter from Finance Minister Christina Freeland to Alison Gray, who is the clerk of the Township of Severn. And that's included with our information this week as well. As you may recall, a couple of meetings ago, I was concerned because one of the motions that was put forward by Chatham-Kent Township was in regards to a proposal by the federal government to tax the profit on private home sales, that is. And that's not something any of us want to see, because very often it's a person's only form of savings in their home. Anyway, in this letter that was received from Christina Freeland, I'm just going to read one line from it. It says, "I can confirm that the government of Canada is not looking at tax changes on principal residences." So that very long motion that you read last meeting, that was put forth by myself and seconded by Councillor Jansman, it was likely your interpretation of that motion that had the effect on Ms. Freeland, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure everybody else will. So thank you very much for that.
Good to see that was confirmed for sure. Anything else this week, Lee?
The only other thing I'll mention is the library. The library is now open to people to go in and use the computer to pick out books. So you can now go in and browse and pick out your own rather than having to pick them up at the door. I will point out that one of the staff has made a very, very interesting display in the library on top of one of the tables in the large room, and it's a beach chair with sandals and a beach towel and a whole bunch of ladies' summer reading spread out around it. So if you have the opportunity, stop in and have a look at it. It's a great promotion that she's done. Thank you, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And yeah, I see they got good success with the reading program this summer as well in the crafts. So great to see so many people using the library. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of items. You were in attendance with myself, and I believe Councillor Young was there too, to the Connect Youth had their official 20th anniversary celebration. There was plaques presented and there was some refreshments available, and it was a pleasant afternoon. Of course, the big item is their 27-foot motorhome that they're putting on the road for, see how that works for them. So best of luck. I don't have any war stories just yet about it. So the only other item is our Royal Canadian Legion opened on Friday and Saturday from 3 to 6, both days. And information is they're just going to try that for a few weekends to see till they get built back up again towards the fall period. So I'll keep you informed on that. Thanks.
Thank you. And yeah, that was a great day for Connect Youth. Nice to be able to support them like we have, and will be moving forward. Councillor Shankar, please.
Thank you. So in the last few weeks, had a meeting on Friday to meet one of our young students that we've hired this summer to help with operations and beautifying downtown and the surrounding area. A great young man, Jaden Kupris, he was there, and there was a few of us there, and he took it really well. You know, for a young lad, we were pointing out lots of work for him. I think we gave him enough work there that he'd be busy until Christmas, but and he had some input, which was great. So he's going to be a big benefit to downtown. While we were taking our walk, we ran into, you know, local residents, just like Councillor Burton said, that were so pleased with our flowers and the gardens this year, and just the whole decor of downtown and how much it's improved with the benches and everything like that. So like Councillor Burton said, that's a big thumbs up to Phil Burton and the rest of the operations crew that have been hard at it all summer. So thanks for that. We had our joint meeting with Augusta. You know, that's been a very positive joint committee with them. You know, we've done some grading on Highway 2 in front of the golf club there. They've had our street sweeper up in Augusta. We've hired a shared bylaw officer and building officer, you know, an intern building officer, and we're sharing that with Augusta. So that's kind of neat. I think their vehicle is going to have both logos on it, so that's going to get people excited, I'm sure, in one way or another. So that's all good. And I just I couldn't be there on Saturday, but congrats out to Water Girl for expanding to a second location in downtown. That's fantastic. Always good to see. And as we've said before, kudos to Dana and all her hard work. You know, even through COVID, we've still managed to create more businesses and fill in empty spots downtown. So good job, Dana. Thank you.
Absolutely. And as much as we do take the shots on good old Facebook every now and again, and by every now and again, I mean pretty much daily, I defy anyone to find a small town that's brought in a $4.5 million investment in their downtown core and opened the number of businesses we have in the last year. So we've had some great success there, and it's something we can all be very proud of because people are investing in downtown Prescott. We've also just seen O'Heafy's is just sold as well, and that's someone well known to us from the Boomers purchase. So people are investing the dollars into the downtown, and we're really going to see that as we come out of COVID. So thanks for mentioning that, Gory, because that was a good day on Saturday, cutting a ribbon again especially for an expanding business. It's nice to see the expansion for sure. So great stuff. And finally, we're up to Councillor Young, right?
Thank you, Mayor Todd. No, I have nothing to report. The St. Lawrence Lodge has not had a meeting recently, so I have nothing to report from any other source.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young, and thanks everyone for the reports this evening. So we're on to 12. Staff do have quite a number of items there, and we're leading off with the big one from this evening. That's 12.1, Staff Report 60-2021. That's report back in the Single Pad Arena and Community Center tender results that we opened last week. Recommendation is that Council direct staff to review the tender submissions and provide a recommendation to a special council meeting on July 26, 2021 to award the tender contract. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Matthew, over to you. And Nathan.
Thank you very much. So I think we'll start with Nathan, and he'll kind of go through the process. I'll cover the financial implications, and then for any technical questions, we do have our engineer here, Josh Eamon. So welcome, Josh. So I'll hand it over to Nathan, and I'll be right back.
Thank you, Matthew, and through you, Mayor Todd. So this report kind of outlines where we're at with the arena project. The city staff or town staff have been actively, continuing to work on the project. and get the drawings ready, the engineering drawings ready, and get the procurement package ready. And so once the federal and provincial funding was announced that it was approved for the town, the next day we were out with a pre-qualification document to get some interested contractors, general contractors, to bid on the arena. Again, it's a multi-use recreational complex. It's got more than just the arena. It's got lots of seating on both sides, lots of different things there for everybody to enjoy kind of throughout the seasons. The main kind of purpose of this report is that, so we did receive, we did pre-qualify. We had 9 contractors come in for the pre-qualification process. And then out of those, we had 7 kind of continue on. And then, 7 were pre-qualified, and then 6 continued on to the next step in the process. And then we did receive 5 valid tenders on last Thursday. So the good news is we had a good turnout for the bid process, which was great to see. The tender results ended up higher than we anticipated and we had budgeted for, and they came in at 17. The lowest one was 17.3 million. And then the rest of them ranged between, not me, I don't think. Sorry about that. And then the rest of the bids range from 19.1 million to almost 20.4 million. So it was higher than the around 15 million that was budgeted. And the lowest bid was by Borgon and Associates out of Cornwall. And so what we wanted to do is kind of take the next week and go through the process of understanding their bid and come back to council a week from now. And Matthew's going to go through some of the financial implications in regards to the added costs that we're seeing.
Thank you very much, Nathan. And so through you, Mr. Mayor. So we did receive the bid for 17.3 million. Part of that bid includes the addition of water and wastewater infrastructure coming over from Industrial Avenue. And part of it is actually for the water tower project. So it would have to be installed regardless of whether the arena was going to be there or not. And so it will be attributed to the water tower project. So it won't be attributed to this. So what I'm trying to say is the whole 17.3 million isn't just the arena, but also includes part of that water tower infrastructure that we were going to install. So from there, we also have, this is split into 2 tender processes or RFPs. And the first one is for the arena as well as the parking lot. The second one will be for the field areas and additional items, which could include soccer, baseball, pickleball, dog park, things like that. So certainly that will be issued in 2022. And we will be back to council this fall in terms of exactly what the layout of those fields look like and be able to support exactly what we need from a design perspective, as well as lighting and that sort of thing. So we were approved for $9.7 million in funding from the provincial and federal government. And we had established a local fundraising goal of, I believe, $3.2 million. It does note 3,020,000 in there, but I did note that was an error. From there, we had decided back in 2018 that we would start putting money aside for the replacement of the Leo Boyden. And this was even before that the ice plant was decommissioned. So part of that money went to addressing some of the issues at the Leo Boyden prior to it being decommissioned. And then from there, we've been putting money aside to be able to save and start to cover off some of the costs. And so by the end of 2021, we'll have already saved 390,000 that we're putting towards this project, and particularly the engineering and design work. So from there, when we take a look and if we assume that we're going to be done sometime in 2023, that's another 470,000 that we'll put towards this project that is funding, and we don't have to add to the tax base. When we took out the loan for the fire hall, the amount that we were putting aside per year was $270,000, but we actually only need about $210,000 to $220,000 per year to be able to cover that loan. So we can actually reallocate $60,000 of that to support the building of the arena. So between now and in 2023, that's another $180,000 that we can put towards the project. And finally, so once we have the funding from the provincial and federal government, we have the $3.2 million that is our goal for fundraising. And then whatever is left over, potentially approximately $4 million, we would be able to take from a debt perspective. And we have $295,000 that we would be able to use to support that debt payment. So all in all, even with the increase in the bid, and we'll have to note that that original estimate was done back in 2019. So a lot has happened since 2019. I think we can all safely say that. And what we're really being able to say is at the end of the day, we've been able to use savings, fundraising, and grant funding from the provincial and federal government, and only be left with approximately $4 million in a debt payment or less, and be able to really have a $20 million facility. So all told, that's only 20% of the total, and that we would have to take on in terms of debt. And in terms of our debt capacity as well as our limit, we do have, if you remember, the BMO loan that we were paying stopped in March of 2021. So that was $332,000 that comes off of our yearly payments, as well as $240,000 will come off in 2024 and 2025. So even if we add back $300,000 or $295,000 in debt payments, then really you can see that it's not going to affect our overall capacity or limit from a debt perspective, that it's not going to increase from where we are today. So those are certainly some of the important things that we want to touch on. And given the fact that there was a significant difference between the first and second bid, our intention is to recommend to council to accept that bid. But we just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and going through it and asking any questions that we might have of the proponent, and to make sure that we're all on the same page as we go forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew, Nathan. Josh, did you have anything to add from your perspective with EVB?
Not so much. I mean, I think, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matthew really nailed it with his presentation, I'd say. I just wanted to add to what Matthew stated, in that Burgo's price, although over budget, unfortunately reflects the cost of doing business in today's time and market. In fact, we got a lot of pushback normally we would ask that the quotations are valid for a period of 90 days. The contractors were crying bloody murder over that, saying that they're having a hard time locking down prices for 10 days. It's just such a volatile market right now. So we've got it locked in at 45 days, but the contractor has stated anything that we can do to award it even more quickly would help with him, because there's a lot of volatility there. We do have a very nice design. We've gone through during the design process back in 2019. We did come up with a Class D estimate that was projecting to be above the town's budget at that time. So we've already gone through a value engineering session where we sat down with staff, cut out the fat and reduce the building size and try to economize the design of the building without jeopardizing what they were looking for in terms of the vision. And so I don't think that there's really any value in going back and trying to revise the design at all, because it's already been done, without going back and pretty much hitting reset and going back to the drawing board and changing the fundamentals of the rink. So I think that there's not a lot of advantage in doing that. And with Burgo, I mean, I think we've got a really good price. Unfortunately, it's above what we budgeted, but the fact that it's $1.8 million below the next lowest priced gives you an indication of what kind of value we're getting there. I mean, Burgo, obviously, we did speak to him. They were comfortable with their bid. They didn't, obviously they probably would have liked to have been about $1.5 million higher, but they were comfortable with their bid, and they're confident that they haven't left anything out of their bid. We're going through it and analyzing it, and we're coming to the same conclusion. And what we're finding is the big changes from what we've estimated the project costs to be versus what they came in at. It has a lot to do with the building materials, so steel, concrete, and wood. Things that we're hearing in the news that are very volatile and are fluctuating quite a bit. That's exactly what we're seeing is the having the biggest impact on what we predicted the costs to be. So I do feel like we have a good bid in Burgo Construction. We've already gone through the pre-selection process and determined that the contractors that we're allowing to bid are qualified and are the ones we want building this project. So we've already gone through that check. We have Burgo as a pre-selected contractor, and I do think that they would be one of the preferred contractors along with the others that we selected to build the project for us.
Thanks so much, Josh, and thanks to Matt and Nathan. Matt, you had another comment?
Just a note that Burgon Construction was the successful bidder for the fire hall, and certainly that speaks to the level of expertise and professionalism that they bring. They were also the successful bidders for the Augusta Fire Hall that's in Maitland, and so really this is a contractor that we have experience with previously and has done quite a bit of municipal work, and so we're very pleased and comfortable with this particular one.
Yeah, this really is, it's great news all the way around, even with the number a little bit higher. We all knew it was going to come in higher than we had hoped initially, given the volatility in the markets with commodity prices. Steel was something that was known for a while was going to be up and has been up for quite a while, has not been coming down like some other building materials have been this year. Steel is still up there, so that's obviously a big part of this. But the bullet points on this really should be, as Matthew mentioned, we're building a $20 million recreational complex here for roughly $4 million of local taxpayer dollars, which, I mean, if we'd heard that number back when we had to shutter the Leo Boyven a few years ago, we all would have jumped at it. I mean, you couldn't ask for better success there. And the other part of it, of course, is that one line in the report, how the construction of the rec complex can be achieved without having to increase the property tax levy, because essentially it's been built in, it's been properly planned out, so we can take on this debt without going back to the taxpayer for 1 cent more. We are going to have to talk about how we staff and operate this facility as we move forward. I don't want to set that one aside, because this is a major new facility in the town of Prescott. But that is going to be something that has to be considered in years to come, actually, once we prepare to operate it. But right now, this is an absolute, I want to say home run, but it's the wrong analogy. I'll say hat trick. It's an incredible success for the town of Prescott, and it's great to be at this point where we're very close to getting shovels in the ground. So open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councillor Shankar.
Okay, yeah. My sentiments exactly like, I didn't want to spend too much taxpayer money on this building all along, but that 4 million Matthew mentioned, also 1 million of that is for the water tower. So we're, for all those that are saying we need a water tower more importantly than we need a rig, we're working on a water tower. The sale of one of our buildings, the health unit downtown, that's going towards a water tower. There's other funding that's available that we're going to try and get, hopefully, to help pay for a water tower. But by putting in that infrastructure for water and sewer up there, it also opens up the doors for more residential planning in that area. So it's a very good news item, and hopefully, and I wanted to ask Josh this question. Hopefully, with there are reports that the price of wood is coming down, more reasonable. I don't expect to see a huge difference or a return check from the contractors, but at least we know the prices are going down, not up. And if we try and make this decision within the 45 days of the contract, then we should be good to go. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you very much, Gory. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Brett. Josh, although most of our taxpayers are concerned about the money, they're more concerned about when can we skate on that ice.
Mm-hmm.
So best case scenario, if the contract's awarded a week from tonight, what do you anticipate the construction, the length of construction and a possible opening date? We won't hold you to this, but
Well, you can hold me to this because we're trying to hold the contractor to it, Councillor Young. The tender states that it's supposed to be completed by February 6, 2023. So the contractors had an opportunity to express concerns with the schedule or modify, and they all committed to the February 6, 2003 deadline. So, you know, we're going to be trying to hold them to it as best we can to make that happen. And I do think that, although aggressive, I do think it's a very realistic schedule, and I don't expect there to be any major issues with it at this time.
so we won't make the start of the 23 season, but we will make Christmas in all likelihood.
Hopefully so. Yeah, that's the substantial completion date of February 26, 2020.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ray. Other comments, questions? Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Yes, I just wanted to echo that this is very much still very much a good news story, and it's a game changer for our town. And unfortunately, the Recording Times headline is rather negative. So for all those naysayers on social media, sometimes it's just to have people read the whole article and realize that what a good story this is for our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jansman. Other comments, questions? Councillor Burton, please, and then Councillor Ostrander.
Thank you. This definitely is a good news story. And it's nice to see that we have a contractor that we can physically see the outcome of his work right here in town and in Augusta. So I'm super pleased that hopefully we go with that contractor, and looking forward to the end result. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Councillor Ostrander, please. You're muted, Mike.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Todd. I was at the bid opening last Thursday, and I'm glad I was sitting down when they read out the numbers, because obviously I wasn't privy to the process as it was going on. So, but in the interim, with everything duly explained, and certainly Matthew, who can make numbers out of nowhere, it seems like, we appear to be in pretty good shape. And the projection date is probably in the ballpark that I was thinking of, late 22, early 23. So that's good to know. Lord knows we get asked 10 times a day sometimes what's going on. But anyway, no, it looks good. Of course, we were very pleased with Bourdon with the fire hall. They did an amazing job there. And I had forgotten that they had also done the Augusta Fire Hall at Maitland as well. So I think we're in good hands, and here's hoping we can keep our schedule on pace. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mike. Any further comments? Councillor McConnell? Oh, you're muted, Lee. You're still muted. Nope. You're still muted.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. An arena is a source of pride for a small community like ours, and we were very proud of the Leo for many, many years. And I know it was disheartening when we found that it was no longer going to be our rink, but it is still a part of our community. If we can build a $20 million rink and have a debt of only $4 million or less than $4 million, I think that is something that we should be very proud of. And I know we were hoping for a less expensive quote, but it just didn't happen. The one thing I think we should be aware of, though, and this is something that we'll discuss at the meeting next week, is the fact that, yes, our bid that we received that we're looking at is $17.3 million. However, There is, if I've read the information that we got tonight correctly, $1 million on top of that for engineering and geotechnical, plus GST that still has to be paid, which pops that up to around $20 million. The GST is rebatable to us as we purchase things, but that's a lot of money and it's going to take a while to recoup that. So I don't know exactly how we're going to be looking at that. So I'm sure Matthew will be able to give us a little better intelligence on that next week. And I'm looking forward to hearing that. But I agree with the rest of councilors. At least we have a quote, and full steam ahead, I think, is what we should be looking at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. Any further comments before I call the question? I will say I didn't realize this had actually hit the recorder in times until Councilor Jansman mentioned it. And boy, I kind of thought they might give us the wait a couple hours at least to actually have the discussion at the meeting instead of pulling out the worst possible items of the report and burying the lead about 6 paragraphs down, which we focused on here this evening. It's beyond disappointing to see that. Not surprising, but very disappointing. And I think the real story is something that we've just discussed here, and we'll see even more of that real story when we award the contract next week. This is a good news story, not whatever seems to be written in the Recorder and Times tonight. So I hope people actually pay attention to the reality of this and not what's being set forward in our local daily newspaper. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks for joining us again tonight, Josh, and thanks for all the expert advice on this and for helping steer our way through this process. Exciting times, and looking forward to some groundbreaking. We are looking actually at a groundbreaking ceremony on the afternoon of Friday, July 30th. It's tentative right now, but we have been in contact with MPP Steve Clark's office on firming up that date, and we did say we were going to get shovels in the ground in July, so we're going to try to do the ceremonial shovels on that Friday afternoon. So we will confirm that shortly, though.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you. And at 12.2, that's staff report 61-2021, Edward Street Overpass repairs tender results. Our recommendation is that council direct staff to review the scope of work for the Edward Street Overpass repairs to minimize the traffic control costs and railway flagging costs, and that staff be directed to issue a tender in January of 2022 for the work to be completed on the Edward Street Overpass repairs with this revised scope of work. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Burton, seconded by Councilor Young. So with that on the table, I think, Nathan, that one is yours this evening. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you, through Mayor Todd. I've been advised to keep my narrative short because it's a long session this evening. So in this case, an assessment was done in 2019 on the bridge for an engineering assessment. And there were some things that were noted. Nothing structural that was noted that needed to be fixed right away. The report came in 2020. And again, it was nothing urgent or emergent that needed to be taken care of. So we did, but there were some items that should be rehabilitated. And so we did go out with a tender, request for tenders, and that was received on July 14th. And the tender amounts ranged from about $557,000 to $844,000, and that included some provisional work as well, which was some added asphalt work, kind of going down the each of the laneways the approaches coming up onto the bridge. And again, the main work was the expansion joints, replacing those, and then some work underneath the bridge. So a couple of the items that if we take the provisional items out, the costs ranged from $440,000 to $765,000. The amount budgeted was $275,000, so it is significantly above what's been budgeted. One of the big items that did come in that was a surprise was traffic control, because we did request that a lane stay open at all times, and that people will be able to walk across the bridge at all times as well, because if you can't go across it, it's a pretty big walk around to the other sides of the train tracks crossings. So we want to take a better look at that, look at all the scenarios with emergency services, and see how we can best minimize the cost, but also keep the safety safety provisions there as well for emergency services. And then we also want to take a good look at how this impacts CN and their flagging crew, and get a better understanding of their processes that they need in place to do this safely. So ideally, we would push this out till next year and come back to council and get another go for RFP in early 2022. And if we do need more budget, then we'll put more budget in.
Thanks very much, Nathan. Great, concise report. This one obviously is the more disappointing one. This is an overage that we didn't really anticipate, and is just something we're going to have to deal with. So the recommendation seems like a wise course of action, but throw it out for comments, questions from members of council. Nobody? Well, that was good and fast. All those in favor? Motion carried. And 12.3 is staff report 62-2021 shade sales for Riverwalk Park and Centennial Park. Recommendations that council approve the selection of Shade Sales Canada for the purchase and installation of shade sails for Riverwalk Park and Centennial Park with a budget of $69,950 plus HST as outlined in staff report 62-2021. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconder. Councillor Burton. That's you again, Nathan, I believe. Go ahead.
Yeah, correct. Through you, Mayor Todd. So this report follows up to some of the other information that we've looked at in the past for this added amenity at Riverwalk Park. Again, as the temperatures rise in the summer, and I think we're seeing increasing temperatures as well, kind of, I guess, as climate change kind of encroaches upon us, it's always nice to have shade to go to when you're in a park. So this looks at both Riverwalk Park and Centennial Park. These structures are really kind of artistic in nature and do present parks with a kind of a fun, artistic flavor. Also adding shade as well. They're very, the structures are, usually have large steel posts on the corners. There's 4 or 6. In this case, we've got 6 posts we're recommending in Riverwalk Park, and a 4-post one in Centennial Park. And the fabric is a very, very robust fabric that lasts for probably 2 to 3 decades. You take it down in the wintertime. It also it protects you from the rain for the most part. It's not wet. It's not rain proof or waterproof, but they definitely keep you drier than you would without something there. And then they have UV degradation ability as well. So at Riverwalk, we're proposing a fairly significant shade sail, and it's a 6-post setup where you can put 2 different colors. We did look at utilizing some of the concrete structure that's in the park to put some of these posts on, but it just a lot of the concrete is it's architectural in purpose and not structural. So the actual sail for Riverwalk is about almost $43,000. And there's some good, the Shade Sales Canada did a good job with some renderings showing you what it would look like in the park. And then in Centennial Park, very similar shade sail, except with the 4 posts and 1 main sail. And again, that would be located, as you can see in the pictures, to the east side of the pool. And this gives a nice area for families to kind of settle in and spend their day, and kind of, parents will be able to see the beach, the pool, and the splash pad. And then again, it could be used for swimming events as well. It's a nice and close to the pool. If you had a swimming event and people needed to sit there. Some of the alternatives, there could be, we could look at different options if council chose. The financing of these would come through the Active Transportation Rehabilitation and Improvements Grant, which was through the federal government, and the federal government's contributing $80,000, and then the province of Ontario is contributing about $20,000. So it's about $100,000 that's coming through from that grant for this work. And so the shade sales, we did estimate at about $50,000 for the 2 of them. But it's up a little bit if we do the bigger one in Riverwalk Park. And then we are anticipating that the waterfront trail work that we're going to do this summer, it should come in a little bit less or less than 30,000. So that would allow some reallocation. And then also there's 10,000 in the budget for play structure deficiencies, which we're not expecting to see all of that spent this year. So there's some reallocation that we can do there. And then in the environmental implications, we'll again, do every effort we can to minimize greenhouse gas emissions. And shade sales is part of another company where they use the smaller bits and pieces from the shade sales to make little handbags from the remnant pieces of the sales. And then they have some other kind of interesting kind of climate change friendly, environmentally friendly things as well that they do within the corporation. And that's it for this report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nathan. So we'll open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councilor Young, please.
Thank you, Nathan. Was the company down here to look at the site?
Yeah, so you're right, through Mayor Todd. They have satellite installation companies, and so it was a company from around the Ottawa area that came down to look at the how they would install it and where they'd install it, and went through some of the details with them.
Is there any concern about the winds coming down the river?
The shade sails are it's a very, very strong fabric, and they do withstand very strong winds. I think if we did see, we saw something coming that was going to be extraordinary winds, we could take it down if we wanted to, but I think we'd leave it up for the most part. We wouldn't have to worry about it.
And is it a tent shape, like with the center pole that?
They do attach them at different points or different heights on the four corners so that the water cleanly comes off when it does rain. And that also gives a bit of an aerodynamic feature as well.
Okay, last question. Is the fabric fireproof?
It is. Rennie did ask that question. I'm trying to think what the company came back and said. I think it is fire retardant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Other comments, questions? Councilor McConnell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. I'm a little confused here because the excellent pictures that were described that they provided aren't worth the powder to blow them. Do you know where? I can't figure out where in this park this sale is other than by the description. It says approximate location is shown in attachment A. Well, there's no river, there's no cement there. It's a very poor representation. From what I can gather, it says the natural seating areas, I believe it says. But that park is sloped to the river. From the cement slopes down to the river. And the natural seating areas that we have right now, there is some park benches there, but they're on a flat area that's been created, and I don't see that that's where these things go.
Lee, do you see the diagram on page 25 of 57 in the report? It does show where they're going on that Riverwalk. They're right over the concrete pads in the middle of Riverwalk Park.
Well, I thought Nathan said that we weren't accessing the concrete pads because they weren't sufficient to anchor the things.
Sorry. What I meant there is that we had looked at using the concrete pads to mount the concrete post or the steel post onto, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go right into the ground and just where the interlock is, where the interlock brick is. We're just remove some of that and pour a concrete pad in the ground. So it's going to be kind of in the southern half of the actual park of the.
So it is covering the interlock area that we have now. It's not out on the grassed area right where the picnic tables are.
Correct, yes.
Okay, well, that wasn't obvious to me looking at this diagram, but I understand it now. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'm perhaps a little bit to follow up with Councillor McConnell. I'm just wondering, you know, the few times I use that play structure with my younger family members and those picnic tables very close by, I would think that that would be the area that shade would be best wanted. Was the consultant kind of like, it says natural seating area, but it really isn't. It's just mostly the walk area. The thing in the middle is where the cannon is, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's right. So I was thinking that there's kind of I call them natural seating areas. So the concrete, I guess, perimeter of the park, that would be kind of a seating area. And then I was thinking the other thing to do as well is put some there's some other, maybe some Adirondack chairs inside there as well, to kind of add to the I guess to the ambiance of the area.
Just a thought, not a hill I'm going to die for, but because it's larger than what we had initially thought, would there be any kind of value in having a small one there and a small one over the picnic tables?
Yeah, we could certainly review that if you'd like.
I'm not sure if there's any support for that idea, but the picnic tables are where you want shade and where you're watching, you know, children use the play structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Thank you, Councillor Jansman. Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Originally, we discussed, I'm hoping to ease Councillor Jansman's concerns. We talked about utilizing that concrete area and putting a couple benches and a picnic table in there because it's not being utilized. So by putting the shade sails in that area, people might opt to utilize that area to sit underneath the shades. I know that there's been extra trees planted in the Riverwalk Park, so that will help with the shades for the other picnic tables. So I think it's a great idea that we're putting these in, and I think it's going to be a fabulous addition to Riverwalk Park.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Councillor Shankar, please.
Thank you. So considering the date, today is July 19th, we approve that if we approve this today, Nathan, when can we expect to see a shade sail in Prescott?
So the supplier indicated 4 to 6 weeks after approval of the order, maximum of 8 weeks.
And would it be we would take it down in the winter?
Yeah, that's correct. You'd take the actual sail would be removed for the winter time.
So would we put it up this year? Like, I'm looking, it'll probably be mid-September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the intent would be to get it installed this year.
Okay. And then figure out a time when whenever winter's gonna hit this year.
Yeah, probably October timeframe. I'm sure you're kind of minimal people rolling through there in October timeframe, but probably October.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Gory. Councillor McConnell again, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Given the fact that this probably comes with some kind of a warranty, and given the fact that, as Councillor Shankar just mentioned, we could be looking at somewhere in September for this. And given the fact that in September, the temperatures go down, we probably don't need much in the way of shade in that area. And there would certainly be less people sitting. Would it not make sense to let a tender for this in the winter for installation in, say, May? So we're not basically having something sitting around for 6 to 7 months, wasting the warranty on it. It seems apparent to me that this is not going to be really utilizable for the heat of the summer. I would think that we should be looking at right off the bat for next summer, possibly, I don't know, installation. Well, I don't know. That's my thought on it.
When does the grant funding need to be spent?
believe it needs to be spent by March 31st.
So we'd have to install or just buy the material?
I believe install. Certainly that was the basis of our application. I think what we seem to run into is that we approve a project kind of in that April-May timeframe, and then it takes a while to actually get it rolling, and tenders and quotes and whatnot. So even if the shade sale is only up for a few weeks, it's then taken down, stored properly. At least we have the posts installed, they're in place, they're able to settle for the entire freezing and then unfreezing, and then we're able to really have it start early next spring and have a full season of it. So that would just be a couple comments.
Anything further, Lee, or?
I'm looking on my printed copy here now, and I don't see it. What is the extent of the grant that we've got for these shades? How much are they costing us over and above the grants?
So the total grant is $100,000, and to be able to support the larger shade sale, then we would be putting $10,000 of our own dollars behind it. But everything else comes from the federal government and provincial government from the grant.
So with the two shades, Centennial Park and this one, $10,000 is ours, and the rest comes from the feds.
That's correct.
Okay, well then in that case, since we have to spend it by March, then I would be in favor of going ahead with it. Thank you. I wasn't aware that there was a time frame on that.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Any other comments? Okay, I actually have some maybe not significant concerns because I love the look of these, but I've got to admit, I don't quite understand why we would put them over the concrete at Riverwalk, because no one does use it. And it's great if we're going to try to make it into, you know, a nicer area. I definitely support that. But I thought we were going to put these on either side, like Councillor Jansman mentioned, one over by the play structure and maybe one over on the other side, because that's where people sit. And I see people putting up beach umbrellas there now over the picnic tables. And I just, you know, I don't know too many people that want to go sit in a park in the summertime and they want to sit on the concrete. So I'm not sure this is the ideal location for it at Riverwalk.
Yeah, some of the, I guess, one of the other options is it could pull forward on the grass. A couple of poles could be in the grass, and some could be on the underneath, or I guess above the concrete structure. I see the other thing that was contemplated was that you can't get underneath of it with accessibility where it sits right now. And then I guess if it was on the grass, that option would kind of fade a bit. But those are a couple of the considerations that were made.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else, I mean, it's been mentioned the location a couple of times, but that's my only issue. I mean, and another thing, we're at a time of COVID now too. People are going to be more sensitive about gathering together in fairly close areas. And what we have is the two sails put basically, you know, side by side to create basically one big structure. And it's not that big of an area. So I do wonder also like just how much we could get under there. Not trying to be critical about this because I love the look of these things, but and I think they'll look fantastic down there. I'm not sure the concrete really works for usability, right?
The size 40 by 30, that's the size of a small bungalow. That's a very large area. And I'm wondering if we couldn't make the 40 by 30 smaller and still do another one by the play structure as suggested by Teresa.
Matt, did you have a response to that?
So the cost of the poles are significant. And so if you're to do two separate ones, then we're probably talking in the neighborhood of $55,000. So similar to the cost of the one in Centennial, versus doing one with 6 poles, then you're kind of halfway between that 27 and 54. So really that's kind of when you're thinking about this, it's the number of poles that you're utilizing and which then has a big determinant on how much it's going to cost. So if we're now talking about two separate structures in Centennial, then we're probably talking in the neighborhood of 55.
Two separate structures of Riverwalk.
Sorry, in Riverwalk.
Yeah. Okay. It's just I don't know. It's just saving money is great. I just wouldn't want to put them up here and have absolutely nobody use them. And that is a concern actually with the traffic you see down there, because everybody just walks through there and they use the picnic. They sit out in the grass on the picnic tables. So if nobody else has a concern about it, I'll let it go. But it's a concern. I've got issues with Centennial too. You're going to hear in a moment too. But anyways, Ray.
I remember, Brett, when the Rotary Club built the pavilion down there, we spent a fortune, like more than $20,000 in concrete below the ground that you can't see. And the reason you did that is because of the uplift under that structure. Now, I understand a solid structure like the pavilion versus the fabric construction, that might make a difference. But Nathan, wouldn't amount of uplift on a heavy wind in that 40 by 30 area?
So this company does they've got dozens and dozens of these on their website, and some of them are like on a mountaintop. A lot of them are beside the big rivers and water bodies. So I think because they're kind of aerodynamic in nature, the way that they're positioned, and then they're not a solid structure per se. They do breathe, like because it's a fabric. It certainly have some forces on it, but not like a solid structure. So yeah, I would assume that they've engineered these properly to withstand a significant wind load.
Any further comments on that? Councilor Shankar?
I think, we've done we've put a lot of work into figuring out where to put these shade sails now. And there's nothing that says that next year we couldn't add a couple more little ones, along Riverwalk Park or in front of the play structure. And you never know, there could be more funding for that next year. So go with what we got. I'm in favor of going with what we got today and seeing how they're utilized. We can also move them, right? I think once it's not set in stone or set in concrete, but I'm sure we can move these sails if we need to, if we find out that everyone on Facebook hates it.
That's the expense. You've got to move the pole. And I don't care what Facebook says about it. It's just I see the usability because I'm in that park almost every day and I see where people sit. And I'll say the same thing with Centennial. I love the location of this, but what I'd always advocated for there, because it goes back to usability. When we have events at the pool, we put the bleachers in on the south side lining the pool. That's the area that gets blasted with the sun where families sit for events. And I always thought that we needed an actual gazebo, similar to what is down at Iroquois. And the other thing is, I think we need a four-season structure down there, not just something that's going to be there for a couple months in the summer, because as we can well attest to, and I can as well, because I walk through there almost every day, there's a lot of use there in the fall, winter, and spring, and having a little shelter down there that's beyond what we have now, which is the smaller gazebo over at the far side of the beach, more centrally located, would be very ideal for people, and it would be year-round usage. But I love where this sail is here, but I still don't think it meets the needs that we have in that park for year-round shelter. Councilor Burton? You're muted.
Sorry. We have to also consider too where the sun is that day. So you're actually going to have shade, not necessarily correctly underneath all the time. You're going to have it just like at a tree, a shadow of a tree. So we have to consider that. And I think that what Nathan has come up with, I think, as Councillor Shankar mentioned, that we should go with it this year. If we need to add another picnic table closer to the shade sails, I mean, I'm sure staff would be happy to do that. So thank you.
that's this most significant cost. I just want to be everybody clear on that, is the installation of the poles. Matt's already mentioned that. So the idea of just adding new ones and moving this stuff around, I think is going to be cost prohibitive. But if everybody wants to, I'm fine to call the question right now if everybody's okay. Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I concur with you as far as Centennial Park goes and the area south of the pool. When there's a bunch of people there, yeah, that area between the walking path and the pool is always crowded with people. And it is very sunny there, as is the area where they're going to, or at least where they propose to put this sunshade at the east end of the pool. I think what's going to make it even more so this year is the fact that the emerald borer beetle, or whatever it's called, has killed a very large tree, which partially shaded that area to the south of the walk. That tree is dead right now, so it's not providing any shade at all. Quite frankly, if I had the opportunity of planting a bunch of trees, large trees instead of sunshades, that's what I would do. I know I've probably lost every vote down at the Mariners Club condominium by saying that, but that's my opinion. In the Centennial Park, though, if we were to plant a couple of larger trees, the quicker growing trees, just to the south side of the path, south of the pool, they would provide shade there in a very few years for that area that you're describing. And I think if you take a look at the amount of shade that's provided by a tree, which, you know, gives us oxygen, gives us beauty, I think that's the way to go in that south area by the pool there. And I would do the same thing at the east end of the pool, except for the fact that we have plumbing and stuff, and you have to be careful of roots. So I think some of these things can be accomplished with trees as opposed to all sunshades.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea, and I agree with it totally for the summer. I'm still thinking of the winter time and the number of people that walk through there and would appreciate shelter in the middle of a walk. And you're not going to get that with a tree, but you would with a gazebo there that actually would probably come in, especially if we could build it internally. Well, with the cost of wood right now, who knows? It could be an absolute fortune, but it's just something that I'll say it now. I'm going to come back for it next year to advocate for that gazebo on the south side of the pool, because I think it's something that's desperately needed down there, especially to accommodate the number of people that are using that park right now. And I do think the year-round usage really needs to be included. But I do love the shade. I love the sunshades overall. Love Centennial, but I just have some issues with the locations at Riverwalk. But if there are no further comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. And 12.4, staff report 63-2021 traffic study and transportation plan to address development north of the 401. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to undertake a traffic study and develop a municipal road improvement plan with an upset limit of $30,000 to be funded through the use of modernization funding received from the province of Ontario. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Shankar. And I did look at this earlier. Matt, this is you, correct?
That's correct. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So as we've had conversations throughout the years with MTO and specific around developments on Development Drive and on Edward Street, what is known as the Sealy's property on the east side, just directly north of the interchange, we've always kind of had the feedback that we need to do a study and an understanding of exactly what our options are with how Development Drive interacts with that interchange, because they're very close together. This is the first time that we actually have the opportunity where we have proposed developments, both on the east side as well as up and down Development Drive, that we're actually able to undertake the study and be able to really have a concrete and fulsome conversation with MTO. And so really that's what we're putting forward this evening, to be able to undertake that study. And once we, if it's approved this evening, we'll issue a request for quotation and then receive those and evaluate them based on the results. So it certainly also kind of goes all the way up to McIntosh Road, and that is one of the reasons why we would have that conversation with Augusta to see if they would like to share in it. Obviously, the major focus of the study and the plan is focused on Development Drive, so we would adorn the majority of the cost, and we could utilize modernization funding. MTO has been clear that with the study that they're doing now, they only focus on the interchange itself, but it's a good time to actually have our study and plan put in place to be able to say if they're taking a staged approach to changes with the interchange, and that could be over the next 10 to 20 or 30 years, that we're able to really focus on and say, what is our 10-year solution? And then when they do make a change, what is the maybe 20-year solution? And those two very may well be two different options. But certainly we need to start somewhere and have the conversation with MTO. And what they always respond back with is, where's your study? What are the options for development? And then we can start having that conversation. And so really that's what is put for you for this evening for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Very well put. Open it up for comments, questions. Councillor Young, please.
Just curious, does the MTO get involved in this actual study? Or do they just accept the recommendations, or do they do their own study on top of ours?
So they're currently doing their study in terms of what the interchange means. Our study will be focused on how developments as they occur are able to access Edward Street, and therefore the MTO has what is known as corridor, I can't remember the last name of it, or corridor control for access. And so therefore they can stop any development they so choose if it doesn't meet their standards. And so what we would do is part of this project and plan is working with MTO, and then at the end of it, it's also producing a plan that we put before council as well as MTO to say, here's all the various options. Let's have a discussion around which ones are going to meet both your needs from the MTO and the interchange perspective, as well as our needs from an access perspective. So certainly we want to unlock the lands east of Edward, as well as all the way up to McIntosh, and we want to do that in a way that is both complementary to what MTO is doing, but at the same time making sure that we're able to achieve the requirements that MTO has. So long short part of it is, yes, they are part of it, and then also at the same time they take the report and plan and then say, okay, so A, B, and C, I think we would be okay with A, and but they've already kind of previously weighed in on some of those options.
Good. It's vital that we do this, obviously, for future development, whether it's this year, next year, or 5 years down the road.
Yeah, it's absolutely the first step we need to clear the way for Patel in particular, the travel plaza development too. Everything's dependent on this. Other comments, questions? Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Given the fact that they have control over what goes on so far from the 401, and obviously we're included that with our North Industrial Park, it occurs to me that the road that was put in, that is Development Drive now, they must have approved when it was built. And I would think that somewhere in our vast repertoire of paperwork at Town Hall, we should have that approval somewhere. And I think we should look it up, because if we are required to change that because they don't approve it anymore, then it seems to me that they should be coughing up the expense to do it.
The problem with that is we're the ones that are proposing to add the development and add the changes there from a municipal perspective. So they're going to want us to at least foot the bill there. Once we get the study, I think that opens up a serious discussion with the province on who pays for the changes there, particularly given that this is serious job creation for the area. But we need to go down this road first to provide the basis for those discussions. I don't know, Matt, anything further on that one?
Yeah, it certainly, I believe the regulations and guidelines that they work under have changed as well. And so I think you're exactly correct, Mr. Mayor, that we need to do the study to say, here's our options. And then it's a further discussion after that to say, how do we achieve that, and in relation to any future changes that they might do to the interchange itself. So I think this gets us along the step of having those conversations, and it's something that if we don't have it in hand, then they generally just say, come back when you have it in hand. So.
Dana, did you have a comment? And then I'll go to Councillor Shankar, please.
Yeah, just adding to Matthew's and your comments. I think the dynamic has also changed a lot when Development Drive was constructed. At that point, I don't even think that we were looking at possible connections to Merwin Lane, which we are now, and we have a much better idea on what the proposed developments are going to be for those lands, where again, it was very speculative back when the initial part of Development Drive would have been constructed. And it's also from, it would provide, if we initiate this study, it's going to provide great support and really enable those proposed developments to move forward. Without this study in place, it's going to significantly impact the viability of the developments that we do have proposed for those lands. So I just wanted to add that piece that it would really go a long ways to supporting what's being proposed there. And of course, the economic benefit that's anticipated from those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. Councillor Shankar, please.
I just wanted to point out, and I know it was mentioned, but we're also looking at Augusta to determine if they want to share in some of these fees, because us working together, they see the benefits of expansion in that area, of creating like a road right to Merwin Lane, which will connect us to Augusta. So I think that should be pointed out, and the residents of Prescott and Augusta are going to benefit from this project. That's it.
Absolutely, thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So 12.5, a staff report 64-2021, eSolutions website refresh. Recommendation reads, the council approved to a maximum of $40,000 for a website refresh through eSolutions as outlined in staff report 64-2021 to be supported by the use of the modernization funding received from the province of Ontario. And I believe our clerk has this. So Ms. Velkamp, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. So this report outlines the two software options offered through eSolutions, iCreate and Umbraco. iCreate is the current software we're using with our website. It has limited functionality and flexibility. And Umbraco is more flexible and provides staff with the ability to be a little more creative. The report outlines some of the similarities. Both of the software options allow for the suggested add-ons, including e-commerce and form builders, as well as microsites. The report provides examples of microsites seen on page 32. So it's a very similar look, but as you can see, the second image shows it's specific for tourism on Elliott Lake. So then that gives a more focused look at what staff may want to draw attention to. One of the main differences is through iCreate. These microsites cost $9,360 for each individual microsite, whereas through Umbraco, there's unlimited ability for microsites at no extra cost. The report outlines the financial implications, with a one-time costing for iCreate coming to $50,490 and Umbraco at $37,720. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. So open it up for discussion. I think it's a great report, and it represents a solid modernization of the website and our online capabilities. So open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councillor Jansma.
I really thank you, Mayor Todd. I really like the idea of a citizens portal. I think that's the way forward with many of the websites. So that would be a real selling point for me. Lindsay, does the cost include training of staff of how to use it?
Through you, Mayor Todd. So the cost does include training for our staff. I did want to comment though. So Citizens Portal we did look at using, but it did have a significant fee involved. So even though we thought it would be a benefit, it just didn't kind of justify the added functionality. But we will continue to look for other options that maybe we can provide similar services to our residents and visitors of the website.
So, oh, sorry. So it's not part of what the proposal if we went with the better version.
No. So the cost associated would be anywhere between 50 to 100,000, depending on what we wanted added in it. So it was a fairly expensive option that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I must have misread that. I apologize. It says additional add-on. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah, it's that second paragraph. It caught me first when I read it as well. It sounded like a great idea, and then the cost 50 to 100 plus 10 to 20K in operating. So, other comments, questions? Seeing none, I just want to thank staff for putting this together. I think adding the e-commerce and the form builder is going to be huge all by itself in terms of allowing residents to better utilize our online services overall. I think it's a great step forward. So seeing no further comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh, Lindsay, did you have?
Sorry, Mayor Todd, I don't believe you have a mover or a seconder yet.
Yes, it was, I did. I just can't remember who it was now. I was sure I put it out there, didn't I?
I didn't catch it, sorry.
Okay. I thought I did. So mover, Councillor Shankar, seconded Councillor Burton. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Apologies, I thought I did do that one. We're going so fast. It's just leaving me in the dust here. Not that I'm complaining about that. So we are on to 12.6, and that's staff report 65, 2021 Canada Community Revitalization Fund. Recommendation that council direct staff to submit an application to the Canada Community Revitalization Fund for a total project cost of $100,000 for the initiatives as outlined in staff report 65, 2021 to help bring people back to public spaces while creating jobs and stimulating the local economy. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Just Dana, is this you?
I think I might take this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's I see both of you there, so go ahead.
Absolutely. So Dana did most of the work on this. I kind of just put it into the report, and I'll tackle it, and then we'll go from there. So on June 23rd, the federal government launched a community revitalization funding program, and this is through FedDev Ontario, and it's nationally a $500 million program. So we tried to think about how we could fit within the overall initiatives of the program, which is really focused on building and revitalizing current assets, bringing people back to the public spaces safely, and then creating jobs. And so we really took a look at it from three separate initiatives, but all part of one project. The first is kind of doing a small pop-up type concept where we would buy a small structure. It could be moved at any time, no foundation to it, things like that, but could be used as a pop-up shop on a seasonal basis. So you could use it probably from the May to September, October timeframe. And we're really focusing on making them vibrant colors, very similar to what you would see in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. When you think about their waterfront and that kind of color palette, and then people would be able to rent them, and whether that's for the season, or we could do it as a smattering of bi-weekly or monthly type vendors, and always keeping things fresh. So it's a great way for entrepreneurs to have a transition point where if they only want to do a seasonal business, or they're not ready for a bricks and mortar lease type of situation, that they could get into this sort of thing, offer a business type environment, and then be able to really get their feet wet and either enjoy their seasonal business, or perhaps turn it into something that that would eventually be on our main street or in town. So that's kind of the first initiative. We would see these 5 to 8 structures costing approximately $30,000. And there are ones that you can purchase pre-built, or you can buy them in packages and build them ourselves. And there's a couple of options out there. The second one is we've been trying to figure out how to, first of all, revitalize the lighthouse, make sure that it's safe, or at least has as many safety features as possible, and from the stair perspective. And then what could we do with that ground floor? And so what we've been working with the engineers, reviewing the options for the stairs, and what we believe is that we've found some great ways to meet the building code for the stairs to the second floor and the third floor, through kind of a curved stair, as well as proper railings, things like that. The final set is currently really a ship's ladder. We're never going to get to building code compliance with that, but we can start to put in some safety features in that, so it makes it less of a risky climb for that last level, and then being able to, at the very least, be able to enjoy the view from the third floor, and then at your own risk, you'd be able to go up to the top floor. So really here, we're looking at revitalizing that as a tourism type attraction. Well, at the same time, we would be able to, again, do a pop-up store in the bottom, and whether you rent it for a couple of weeks, or for a month, or for a season, but those are certainly things we could explore and be able to offer that. And again, entrepreneurs would be able to take the space, do their business and their wares, and it's kind of a win-win. So really what we were trying to do is, how do we get people visiting downtown from an economic perspective, and how do we help entrepreneurs find a space that is a little less traditional in terms of your storefront and that sort of thing, but still provides a great opportunity to for people to visit, as well as them to explore their entrepreneurial talents. And then the third item is much more around providing a common meeting area in the downtown. And so what we took a look at, and there's a couple of examples in here of what they kind of call them parklets and things like that. And you're able to take some parking spots and then turn that into a bit of a temporary patio situation, where you provide seating, perhaps some shade. Some have incorporated games into it, so you could sit down and enjoy a nice game of checkers, that sort of thing. So again, by doing it in the Clock Tower parking lot, the Turkish restaurant isn't that far away. There's Boomers kind of right across the street, Tim's Fish and Chips. And so the number of restaurants fairly close that you could kind of bring your meal, or you just bring your meal from home and able to sit down and enjoy some time with friends and family. And then obviously being in the central Clock Tower area, that we're able to attract as many people as possible. So one of the keys is being able to make sure that it's removable. So when we're in the winter months, we're not hampered with and it's not degrading from a snow and wear perspective. But then during those summer months, having that great opportunity to have a communal space downtown that they can kind of enjoy some times with friends and family. So that was really the concept. It's a 75% cost coverage. And so if our total project is $100,000, which we've kind of put before you this evening, they would provide 75,000, and then we would have to provide the other 25,000, which we could pull from the Fiscal Policy Reserve Fund, where we have several $100,000, and be able to support it that way. So it's a very tight turnaround. I believe the application is due later this week on Friday, and you can see that there was only 1 month from beginning to end, and we only got the technical kind of specifications in the first week in July. So we've really been trying to hunt down exactly how we can satisfy this particular grant program, and I think staff, and particularly Dana, has done a great job of really finding that economic development balance, along with bringing people back down to the downtown and enjoying that, and having a reason to come down. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Matthew, anything to add to that, Dana?
Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you. No, I think Matthew did a fantastic job outlining the intent of the funding program. I'm just really looking forward to those opportunities to really reanimate the downtown and provide visitors and residents with more of a gathering space so that they can spend more time in the downtown and hopefully take some time to experience our business community, as well as enjoy the new farmers market that's going to be opening this Saturday. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dana. I think I saw Councillor Jansman's hand up for a comment, then open it up to everyone.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Yeah, frustrating, isn't it, that the turnaround for such an exciting opportunity is so small. And I think that has been highlighted many times before as a criticism to these program funding. So kudos to the staff to not just say, yeah, we're not doing that, we don't have time. So I'm happy that we're taking advantage of this opportunity, and 75% funding, like, you can't beat it. So that's awesome. And I've always been an advocate with the lighthouse, as everybody knows. So I'm super excited about that. And the pop-ups are definitely a way where the trend is going, and definitely being proactive there. So I 100% support this, and yeah, hopefully we're successful. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jansman. Other comments, questions, please? Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. The parkette or lunchette, or whatever you want to call it, the last suggestion there, I'm a little curious. We have the farmers market in the front part of the parking lot, and we have the parking for the farmers market in the back part of the parking lot. Where exactly were you thinking of putting this parkette or lunchette or whatever you want to call it in the parking lot? My thought on the thing is, we have the area where the trees used to be at the back of the parking lot, which is fairly wide, where we have those large urns of flowers there. That's an area that would be available. But as far as actually taking more space out of the parking lot, I'm not sure how that would work.
Comment from staff?
I can just comment quickly on the actual space availability. As much as I would love to say that we have fully occupied our available market space, we have not. It is very much a work in progress. So for this year especially, there would be no concerns with having the combination of the parkette and our farmers market vendors within that market area. Definitely a great suggestion to look to that other area. And I think, as Matthew mentioned, there is an option with these patios that you can actually utilize some of your, I would say, underutilized parking spaces for this. So you can actually integrate them more right into your downtown core and have the odd parking space that provides a little bit of a gathering area, seating area with tables that the restaurants could also utilize that aren't providing actual table service, just a place for someone to grab a seat to enjoy a nice takeout meal from one of our restaurants. So it's flexible, that's for sure.
Thanks, Dana. Any further comments, questions? Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I love all three ideas. I think we could really use some things going on in downtown, especially with the new little huts that staff is proposing. We could really create a little Riverwalk village with the entrepreneurs, little area there, and love the idea of the parkette. I think it would be totally utilized with even staff that are working downtown in the businesses. So I love all three ideas and definitely going to support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Other comments, questions? Dana, do you have another comment? And Teresa, you had one more comment?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor Todd, through you to council. Very quickly, I just wanted to add one thing that we have been experiencing, which I'm really excited with this new pop-up initiative, which was really kind of the initial rationale when we first proposed this idea, is we're struggling. As much as there are some vacancies in the downtown, a lot of those spaces are either currently undergoing renovation, and there are planned businesses that are going to be opening up. And then we do have several spaces that, although, you know, despite being available, the lease amount is quite high, and it's a real deterrent for someone who's just starting a business. An established business, you know, really wouldn't balk at some of the lease amounts that we are seeing in the downtown core, but it very much is a deterrent to those entrepreneurs, those startup business owners. So these pop-ups are a way that we can kind of give entrepreneurs, you know, open up the door at a much lower cost so that we can hopefully get them to that point where they are able to take on some of those permanent brick and mortar spaces. But it is something that this is one initiative that we're hoping to address some of those downtown vacancy concerns or high lease rates in some cases that we are seeing with some of those properties. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dana. Councillor Jansman, did you have another comment?
Yeah, just I meant to mention this, that you know, the only potential downside to this portable patio, as well as the sales that we were just talking about, is that it is staff hours that have to be considered for the installation and takedown each spring and fall. So that I thought might be worth mentioning. That's it. Thanks.
Good point. Thanks very much. Any further comments? Two quick ones myself. Great. I love this concept, and it is something that there are a couple companies using it in the province overall. There's one company that took a meeting with some of the corridor municipalities a while ago, rolling these out along the 401, similar to the pop-up shops. I mean, it's a concept that's really taking off across the province, and this is a great Made in Prescott slant on that I think works really well for us here. So fantastic to see it, and I think it's incredibly marketable right now as well. The only comment I would have is just on the seasonal part of it, and I realize, you know, middle of winter we're not going to have, you know, crowds and whatever out there, but, you know, I will make the point again, we need to be looking for ways to bring people into the downtown over the winter months as well, whether we use these things as some kind of Santa's Village in the winter time and do Christmas markets. I think there's real opportunity there as well. And I just want to make sure when we buy things and we look at installations, we really look at the four season aspect of this, because that is such a huge part of trying to build beyond COVID as well. I think people will be looking for more outdoor experiences, even in the wintertime. And if we can provide them in a beautiful riverside setting in a historic town, I think people will flock to us. And these are the kinds of things I think that can be just incredibly marketable. The other thing I would mention, and we have talked about it in the past, and forgive me if it's mentioned here, I don't think that it is, but we have talked about that, I'm going to call it an alleyway, but it's a little bigger than that. That's the space between 171 King Street, the new apartment building, and that stretch to the west, where it's open enough. And we have talked about potentially working with the developer there to sort of build up that area as a nice connecting point between King Street and Water Street. Don't know if anyone's looked at that as a potential, maybe an addition here, a way we can actually help put something in there. But I always thought that was a real opportunity. And I know you've mentioned it before in the past as well, because it kind of goes back to what we talked about a number of years ago with Riverwalk Park and that grand stairway that would connect down from King Street through Water into Riverwalk. So something that could be done there to maybe tie into this. I think that's a real opportunity to connect Water Street and the waterfront itself with King. I know it's not huge, but it's wide enough. If you look at it right now, it could be a nice walkway and be made really really nice for people to stroll through there. And if there's some kind of commerce aspect to it as well, all the better. So I just wanted to mention that. Any further comments before I call the question? Ray, did you just have your?
Nope, I'm fine. I think it's a great idea. I can't say anything more than has already been said.
Okay, seeing no further comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thanks again for the very good, very thorough report. That's actually really innovative too for the town. It's fantastic to see things like this moving forward. Where are we here? We are at 12.7, the staff report 66-2021 COVID grant program for nonprofit organizations. These are the allocations being recommended from staff. Recommendation is that council approve the following COVID-19 grants for nonprofits. 1, Prescott and District Lions Club, $4,698. 2, Prescott Lawn Bowling Club, $1,782. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Burton. And Matthew, I believe you have that report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So before you this evening, we did receive 3 applications, one from the Lions Club, one from the Prescott Bowling, and one from the Legion. Lions Club, pretty straightforward. They haven't had much in the way of revenue in the first 6 months or any revenue, and fixed costs of approximately $4,700. So that's why I had the recommendation right there. The Lawn Bowling Club, fixed costs of $1,300, and then so we took a look at that, but then they're expecting for the rest of this year, as they've made a decision not to open, just because of the amount of work that preparation work that needs to be done and the timing of the lifting of restrictions, that an additional $450 would be needed to cover fixed costs to the end of the year. So really, that's how the recommendation of 1,782 came up, in that we wouldn't expect anything if we do this again. The total amount of the grant that was being provided is $15,000. The third and final application was for the Canadian Legion, and at this moment, their bottom line with variable and fixed costs, see them having a slight profit, and so therefore they didn't qualify for the program at this time, but we're more than happy to revisit that in the second half of the year if council decides to move forward with that. So when we're taking a look at this, approximately $6,500 would be allocated out of the 15, and we can actually just put the rest aside for if we decide to do a second intake for the second half of the year, and be able to help any organizations that are still struggling in the second half. Really, that's the report that you see in front of you, and more than happy to discuss any questions there might be.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I will open that up for comments, questions from council. Anything this evening? Seeing nothing, so I will call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. And we're back up to item 12.8, that's staff report 67, 2021 community park program. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to enter into an agreement with the YMCA of Eastern Ontario to provide a community park program from July 26th to August 28th, 2021 within the town of Prescott. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Young. And with that, I'll turn it over to Samantha Jodona Miller. And I'll also welcome a Y representative. I see Emily Wimpey. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. So Sam, if you want to take us into your report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. We became aware that other municipalities, Augusta being one of them, were implementing a park program with their summer recreational students. We thought this was a great opportunity when people are just very anxious to get outside and get involved again. So we wanted to find a way to offer something similar by checking off a number of boxes. So what we're proposing here, what we're presenting here is an extension of our relationship with the YMCA, which is proving to be very positive, to implement a community park program that would run on a 21-hour work week. The YMCA would hire a staff member to their team that would work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 2 parks per day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Those would be our 5 town parks, as well as the addition of the town hall backyard. So we're hitting several different avenues within town. We know that this is a demographic that we need to focus on in terms of recreational programming. And I just think it's a really great way to provide inclusive programming, extend our community partnership with the YMCA, and use assets that we already have within our recreational library that are currently housed at the pool building. We do expect that this program would come in under $3,000. Should it be approved, we will be able to begin on Monday, next Monday, and run it through to the end of August. I'll let Emily chime in here if she has anything she wants to add.
Sure. Thanks so much. Ms. Wimpenny, please, any additions to that report this evening?
Thank you. I don't think so. I think the biggest thing was that it is an inclusive program for children of all ages and abilities. We would encourage parents under the age of 10 would have to accompany the children, but there is a fair bit of equipment and our staff are well trained and excited at the opportunity. Thank you.
Sounds fantastic. Just no more great evidence of the partnerships we're building with the Y. It's great to see. So open it up for comments, questions from members of council, please. Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I think this is going to be an excellent program. I see Augusta Township has already ran a couple of their park programs, and it's very, very successful. Kids are having the opportunity to do crafts, play sports, all sorts of different things. So kudos to staff for recommending this, and excellent report, and looking forward to hearing the laughter in all of our parks in Prescott. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Any further comments? Councillor McConnell, please.
I think this is a great idea too. It harkens back to the old playgrounds that we used to have, that when, I don't know if they were still around when you were a kid, but they were here when I was a kid all summer, basically, in the various parks around town. And some of our high school kids get hired as you know, the heads of those things. But I'm a little curious, the way it's written here, I'm not sure I understand how often they're going to be offered. So let's just take the one behind the town hall, for example. I understand it would go for either the morning or the afternoon, since it's a half-day thing. But is it only once a week, or is it 3 days a week, half days? Can you explain that a little better, please?
Yes, absolutely. The intention would be that, so we would run Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The schedule per week would be the same. So let's say, for instance, on Monday mornings, we would be at Sarah Spencer Park from 9 to 11. And then on Monday afternoons, we could be at Fairway Park from 1 until 3. That would be every Monday. And then Wednesday would hit 2 different parks, and then Friday would hit the other 2 different parks. But that weekly schedule would remain the same in those 2-hour time increments.
So you are hitting each park once a week then? Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Any further comments? Gory, yeah, Councillor Shankar, please.
I'm a big fan of this. I think it's a great program. It's great for our young kids in town. It offers them a nice, safe place. It's an all-inclusive place. We've already worked with the Y. We know the Y does a great job, and they recruit good staff and everything like that. So I'm a big fan of this, and it's a minimal cost to be able to offer this. So I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. Councillor Young, please.
I like the idea as well. It's something that we talked about several years ago, maybe even last term, and we couldn't get it off the ground. I only hope that we can prove to ourselves it's such a great program that we can find more money to make it even bigger next year, that we can offer it 5 days a week and serve more kids in the town.
Absolutely. I think we did offer parts of that program a number of years ago, but it didn't become a recurring thing. So I remember we had the discussion and compared it to the old playground program that was still around right through the 80s. So I was a little younger than Lee, but I still got to experience those as well. And it was great for all the town kids that you saw all your friends, and it was a great program. So any further comments this evening? Seeing none, so I want to thank both Emily and Samantha for this exciting program. And I think we all look forward to, as Councillor Burton mentioned, hearing more laughter of children down at the parks. But I will say, if you head down to that beach any day, you'll hear the laughter of a good couple hundred kids right now, as those Centennial Park is just so packed. It's so great to see how so many families enjoying Prescott's recreation, Prescott's beach, pool, splash pad. This just gives them something else. And it's all thanks to our great staff and the help with the Y. It's going to be a great partnership. So with that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for joining us tonight, Emily. And that gets us through the staff reports. Anyone in desperate need of a break? We're 2 hours in. Gory? Seriously, does anyone want to take a quick break, or we want to just plow through and try to finish this? We all good to go? Okay. So 13 resolutions, 13.1, we do have some BIA Board of Management appointees coming from the last BIA meeting. A recommendation that council appoint the following members to the Prescott Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the current term of council, ending once a new board is appointed. The names are Leslie Badagoni, Nicole Hudson, and Dawn Tuteki McDougall. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried, and congratulations to the 3 new BIA board appointees, and welcome aboard, and thanks for volunteering to sign on with our BIA. 14 is bylaws tonight. We do have a number of bylaws to ratify. 14.1 is the bylaw enforcement officer appointment that we have discussed a little in past meetings. Recommendation is that bylaw 33-2021, being a bylaw to appoint Samantha Hanson as a municipal bylaw enforcement officer for the corporation of the town of Prescott, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Young. Mr. Armstrong, any comment on this?
No, we're very pleased to be able to bring this forward, and the bylaw was passed in Augusta, so certainly we're looking forward to moving forward.
And I think Gory mentioned it earlier, but seeing the truck driving around with both Augusta and Prescott logos on it is interesting, and it's already getting quite a bit of attention. So it's good to see people noting how many great things we're doing together with Augusta right now in both municipalities. Councillor McConnell, comment?
Question, if I may, Mayor Todd. First of all, I think this is a great idea. It's something that we need, but we don't need full time, and sharing with Augusta only makes sense. And I'm glad that they see it that way too. My question was in regards to the truck. In walking through the town parking lot yesterday, I noticed the Augusta sticker on the back door, and of course the Prescott sticker in the front. I'm presuming that the person is being quartered in Prescott here at the town hall using our town truck. Is there an accommodation with Augusta Township as far as mileage on that vehicle goes when it's being used in Augusta Township?
Absolutely. So all of the kilometers are being tracked and just charging a flat rate per kilometer for the operation of that truck when used in Augusta.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lee. Any further comments on that item this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And 14.2 is another bylaw enforcement officer appointment. Recommendation reads that bylaw 34-2021 being a bylaw to appoint Donna Landon as a municipal bylaw enforcement officer for the corporation of the town of Prescott be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Young. Mr. Armstrong, over to you again for a brief comment on what we're doing here.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we're Donna Landon, who is our administrative assistant for our building bylaw and general area downstairs. Also does a lot of work in bylaw, in particular, all of the work with the taxi companies, with the drivers, with the issuing the licenses, things like that. So given the fact that she's doing most of the work, it makes sense that she would also be able to sign off on those. That type of work. And so really that's what we're bringing forward this evening, and it's just making the process a little bit easier and making sure that everyone has the right tools at their disposal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Open it up for comments, questions. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Motion is carried. 14.3 is bylaw enforcement officer appointment. Recommendation here is that bylaw 35-2021 being a bylaw to appoint Nathan Richard as a municipal bylaw enforcement officer for the corporation of the town of Prescott be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, second verse, same as the first?
Pretty much. So wanted to make sure that if there's a situation where a bylaw officer isn't available, that Nathan is able to carry out the enforcement of a bylaw, whether it's for parking, emergency type situation, those types of things. So really just thought it was a nice way to again provide the opportunity if it arises, not expecting that it will ever need it to be, but in an emergency situation, then certainly we have that ability.
Okay, thank you very much. Open it up for comments, questions. And did we just lose Lee? There he's back.
No, I just had a low battery, but I'm 10%, so I'm good for the rest of the evening, I think.
I hope so. If you're not, we're all in trouble. So any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So moving right along, sorry, I am missing the one last bylaw, and that's 14.4. Zoning bylaw amendment for Development Drive discussed previously. Recommendation reads as follows: that bylaw 36-2021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 09/2009 to change the zone on the lands known as Blacks Creek Innovations Inc. Development Drive, Prescott, to allow for all the uses of the general industrial zone M1 be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Young. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So 15, new business. Does any member of council have any new business to bring forward tonight? Seeing no. 16, notices of motion. Does any member have a notice of motion to present this evening? Also seeing no. 17, mayor's proclamations. There's nothing there tonight. 18, closed session. Nothing there tonight. So nothing under rise and report. And 19 takes us right to 20 in our confirming bylaw. That's 37-2021. Recommendation is that bylaw 37-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on July 19th, 2021 be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Somebody? Councillor Young, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Motion is carried. 21, everyone's favorite motion. Motion for adjournment. Can I have a mover for the adjournment tonight? Oh, Mr. Armstrong?
I just wanted to make the note that we are intending on having a meeting next Monday to discuss the arena, and so just want to keep that in everyone's calendar.
Okay, and we are going to keep that, or try to keep that, unless something urgent comes up, we'll keep it to the one item, so we can get everybody in and out quickly and celebrate the good news, hopefully, after that meeting next week. Councilor McConnell?
Is there a plan to have that online, or is it a public meeting, or are we going to have it at the town hall?
We're still going to be at Zoom at that point, virtually, although we did, when we had our emergency control group meeting this morning, we did talk a few things about potentially moving back in, but right now we're really not able to unless we're all masked for the entire portion of meetings. I don't think that's anything anyone would really want to endure for an entire meeting, even when speaking. So we decided to go with this for now, but the health unit is going to help look at other potential options. And I know staff has as well, but we're probably looking at September now before we move back into council chambers. If then, I mean, we do have to really follow the provincial guidelines, and obviously they're still out there. So online for now. So a motion for adjournment. Did I have someone? I don't even remember now. We'll do it again. Motion for adjournment, Councilor Shankar, Councilor Ostrander, all those in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks everyone here for participating tonight. Take care and enjoy your summer, and we'll see you.